It's a busy time for Buffalo City lawmakers addressing quality of life issues and other concerns for taxpayers.
Fillmore District Councilman Mitch Nowakowski is back in the studio with us this afternoon to talk about all that's going on. Mitch, it is a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So there's always a whole lot going on, something that has been an ongoing issue for a while now, short-term rentals in the city. What is the latest on where everything stands?
So right now the Common Council is debating a moratorium for short-term rentals so that the municipality can catch up. That's what moratoriums do. They say, wait a minute, we don't have a comprehensive plan right now on how to address this, so let's pause it and then rework the legislation. And really we've seen short-term rentals just completely change and morph into something that we haven't seen before, that are affecting municipalities throughout the city, especially my district, Niagara district, downtown Buffalo, Ellicott. We're starting to see really our residential fabric be completely overrun with short-term rentals. I live on a street and it was a street that residents really brought back to life. I bought my property when I saw drug paraphernalia on the porch of the next property. I mean, it was residents that brought it back, but now we're starting to see it become more transient with short-term rentals, and these are really just unregulated hotels that are really taking over specific neighborhoods.
And these are outside influences. That's really the big, perhaps one of the biggest problems here, is that these are not the typical Airbnb or Vrbo customer, which is like, oh, I have an extra house, let me go ahead and rent that out. These are people from downstate, out of state, wherever, buying up all these houses and then renting them to whomever. So that moratorium, is that in place right now? Is that giving the city a break, or can people still do this?
Yeah, we have not passed the moratorium yet because we have to work, because every neighborhood is different, and Majority Leader Halton Pope is really trying to get a consensus among all council members. And to your point, Dave, I had people that live in California that purchased properties in my district in Allentown, never even saw it a day in their life, and want to take 3-4 units and completely turn them into Airbnbs on a residential street. And my thing is could you imagine raising your family next to it?
So where does the moratorium stand right now? What does the progress look like?
So right now, I would say that we're pretty close to a final document that we think that will satisfy all council members because they all have different takes on it. But the biggest thing is making sure we have a moratorium for non-owner occupied. If you owner occupy your property, live your life, that you domicile on the property, and we can contact you. You contribute to the fabric of the neighborhood. But really, we're trying to come up with a document that targets residential and single-family zoned areas. I went to school for urban planning, so I should probably look at what zoning classifications and uses are appropriate in neighborhoods to create and promote harmony. All
right, we'll keep an eye on that. If we could switch gears now, the Buffalo Animal Shelter has made the news over the past couple of weeks. Let's kind of walk folks back to where this started. Within this fall, people reached out to you, this is within your district, and they were concerned about the conditions within the shelter. They were also concerned about the management, and as the city and you were doing your due diligence and investigating it, the manager, the executive director of the animal shelter had a medical emergency. Where do things stand now with her, with that executive director, and also with the future of the shelter?
Well, with the first things first, our thoughts and prayers are with the executive director, Kelly, and her family. Right now, she is hospitalized, and from what we know, is really experiencing a serious emergency. So our thoughts are there. It is now being run by interim director that I met with last week.
So the new leadership, or at least the interim temporary leadership, is in place?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, and so this was a coordinated effort among my constituents who are volunteers, and I got probably a saturation of like 10 to like 12 to then almost 22 emails within like 2 days that said you really need to get down there. It has been overlooked. To the conditions that are substandard, and it looks like a bunch of break rooms that were turned into kennels. And if you look at the city budget now, we allot about $800,000 for the entire animal shelter. So I have met with the DPW commissioner, I've met with animal shelter staff, volunteers, nonprofits, you name it. The SPCA even gave me a tour of what it really should look like. The city is engaging in negotiations for a new shelter. I can't tell who responded to the RFP until we make that public and we make sure that the agreement is legal and ratified. But that will be into the Common Council clocked in a few weeks, where the public can weigh in on what a new shelter looks like. But not only are we going to see the political will of getting a new shelter, when we get a new shelter, we have to make sure we have the adequate resources to go up to the standard that we need. That's additional personnel, that's additional vehicles, additional personnel, and policies to make sure that that new shelter isn't just pretty new glass and floors, but it actually could be functional from that standpoint.
And you just spoke with the volunteers. What were they telling you?
They were telling me that, they're happy that the city is moving expeditiously now that we really are kind of taking a hold of it. But they've talked about that they need clean standards now and conditions now, even if it's immediately, even if it's in the old structure. But that basically they want to make sure that something that's very serious is to make sure that there's going to be enough space in this future shelter, because we should not be euthanizing dogs because we don't have the space for them. That's wrong. That's immoral. And we need to make sure that we have, from a functionality standpoint, a proper facility to take care of all of God's creatures.
Is there an expectation for timing? I mean, here we are talking about RFPs. The proposals are being sent out. Is the expectation that the city wants to choose a contractor by the end of this year or early next year, and then spring construction, summer completion? What do we think?
Great question. So the city in a few weeks will clock in the RFP to the Common Council to deliberate. If we ratify that agreement and that lease structure by the end of this year, we don't have to do a new build, so we can just go. We don't have to wait on the construction timeline because we're not building an absolutely new building. We already are going to build out a new facility, which construction can happen there immediately. Hopefully a build out will take 9 months, and maybe we can move the animals by the end of 2025.
Another very big topic in Buffalo, fluoride in the water. What is new there?
So the Buffalo Sewer Authority did start putting in fluoride at the end of August and early September back into the water, and the Common Council really took the lead on that. That was Councilmember Rivera and Wyatt who really discovered that it wasn't in, and residents were properly notified. And so we had constituents and people come in that were speaking out against fluoride today. Everyone's allowed to speak their piece, but the fact of the matter is we live in a world where it's easy to be an armchair expert. You can look on something on the internet and it's easy to say, I think that this is real. But I do want to state that the EPA is what governs federally that, but then ultimately municipalities like Buffalo have their own autonomy to regulate their municipal water. And so we've heard from dentists and pediatricians and people we should be trusting and who take care of our children or ourselves, who are saying that fluoride within a certain parameter has a public health benefit to it.
So even if Robert F. Kennedy, a member of Donald Trump's cabinet, says we should be removing fluoride from the water, the council believes that this is a local issue that would then trump a federal issue in this case, so local control rules?
Yeah, so this is a state and locality issue. So yes, RFK is supposed to be the Health and Human Service Secretary, but really this would be governed over the EPA agency.
Okay.
And so they could certainly put guidelines to make it harder, but not eliminate a healthy amount of fluoride in public water. That's up to the local authority, and that's state and local municipal law.
It would be interesting because the city has spent a lot of money righting this ship, getting this back into the water, only weeks or months down the line to have it taken out. That would be a tremendous expense to the city.
Yeah, and that's why we really have to rely on pediatricians and dentists who are practitioners. And I could look up virtually anything on the internet and come up with a conclusion. And I respect people who have a different opinion, but let's all use our common sense and rationale when we're debating this issue.
There certainly is a lot to talk about in the city of Buffalo. Buffalo Common Councilman Mitch Nowakowski, thank you so much for taking the time to give us all these updates.
Thanks for having me.
All right.